Welcome to the Neighborhood Law Center. I'm your host, Melvin Burruss, and today our guest is Elizabeth Cromwell, President of the Seaville Regional Chamber of Commerce. Our topic is, let's talk chamber. Okay, Elizabeth, let's tell the audience something about yourself.
Well, great. Well, first of all, Melvin, thank you so much for the invitation to be here. It's an honor to join you, and I am delighted to be at the Charlottesville Chamber. It's been just about a year now since I took the job here. Prior to that, I had worked for a Chamber of Commerce in Frederick, Maryland. And before that, I've worked in the for-profit sector, in the nonprofit sector. I've worked in the media. So I have a pretty broad 30-plus year history. A lot of work with marketing, sponsorships, events, and that kind of skill set translates pretty well to chambers.
That's good. Well, some of our audience probably don't know what the chamber is, the Chamber of Commerce. So could you kind of elaborate? What is the chamber?
Sure. The chamber is a member-based organization. You're right, a lot of people don't know what a chamber is. Some people think it's a part of the government, which it is not. So we have members who are business people or companies in the community. And if you kind of think about it, it's almost like a union for businesses, really. And so if you think about lots of initiatives and major projects that happen in cities, the chamber provides a forum for the business community to participate in those kinds of initiatives. We really kind of have two tracks. One is we want to make our individual members more successful in the business that they do, and we do that through training and resources and networking opportunities, that kind of thing. And then the second track we have is we want to make this community the strongest business community that it can possibly be.
Okay, well, it sounds like a big job. Okay, what kind of organizations get involved? I mean, is it just for-profit, or are there other
No,
businesses?
that is such an interesting question. And one thing I've learned, and there's kind of a saying that if you've seen one chamber, you've seen one chamber.
Okay.
Because in different parts of the country, every chamber has its own unique qualities. What I have found here so far in Charlottesville and in this general region is it's a pretty integrated business community when you're talking about the nonprofits and the for-profits and our academic partners and our government partners. So, you think about the business community, but of course our major employers are government and academia.
Right.
So they're of course very large partners in the chamber. But one of the biggest sectors for us is the nonprofit community as well, because nonprofits are an economic engine, and a lot of people here in this community work in the nonprofit community. So we want to make sure that our membership is pretty reflective of the business community and the organizations that are driving economic development here.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. I can understand that business or nonprofits or government can join the chamber.
Absolutely.
What about individuals? How do they join?
We have a sole proprietor rate. If you're an individual that's not involved in the business community, I'm not sure that the chamber is really a fit for you, just because of the lane that we are involved in. But many of our members are sole proprietors, and so they're people that may, in fact, someone just joined yesterday who works about 15 hours a week for an organization that they started. They became a member of the chamber because they're interested in some of the roundtables and the programming that we're doing. So we range from very large organizations down to a lot of mom and pop businesses.
Okay, you just talked about roundtables. What is the essence of the roundtables?
Well, that took me a little while to learn here, because at this chamber we have roundtables and committees and councils, and there are so many of these kind of subject-specific groups, or groups that are focused on a particular constituency. So there are lots of them. And they're actually really kind of the eyes and ears on the ground as far as what's going on in the business community. And those roundtables help our board of directors, who is an all-volunteer group of business leaders, help them understand some of the complexities of this business community. So, for example, one of the roundtables we have is called the Defense Affairs Committee. The Defense Affairs Committee is focused on and populated by people who are either working at the Department of Defense, our partners up at NGIC, or some of the defense contractors that are working up at UVA Research Park, for example. So that's a group of people that's very focused on issues that may not be of tremendous importance to some other groups. So they've got their roundtable. We also have the Chamber's Business Diversity Council. I think, as you know, you've participated in that. And that is a group that is very focused on, diversity, equity, inclusion. That's a very active group. We're actually launching a new grant program with that roundtable in partnership with the United Way. So they're focused on a specific set of needs from their constituency. There's a women's business roundtable that is focused on building, networking, and support and resources, particularly for women in business. Their big event every year is called Quadruplicity, takes place in March. So we have a whole bunch of these different roundtables that kind of give a more specific way for members to plug into their business community. We're actually launching some new ones too. So we've got the Young Professionals Roundtable, which we're going to be starting in 2020. And we also have a Hospitality Roundtable, which is going to focus on the restaurant, winery, distillery, events, festivals, a lot of the sort of more tourism-related businesses we have here, because that's a huge sector of our community.
Now, how do their recommendations or their concerns get communicated back up into the board so action can be taken?
Well, that's a great question. And I would say that I don't think primarily so far we haven't heard about concerns. We've heard about opportunities. We've heard about things happening that everybody in the business community should be aware of. When there are concerns, especially related to perhaps regulatory issues or areas of public policy, then we have kind of reconstituted a new group called the Public Policy Committee. And so let's just take the Defense Affairs Committee, since I started with them earlier. If the Defense Affairs Committee has an issue, I've actually gone through this issue with my previous chamber, where the federal per diem rate for a government employee is at a rate that's much lower in this county than it is in other surrounding counties. It has a negative impact on economic development here. I know that's a little bit in the weeds, but those are the kinds of things that roundtable would take to the Public Policy Committee, which is also filled with a group of volunteer business leaders who are experts in regulatory and legislative affairs. And they will kind of dig into it, make recommendations to our board, and if it's something that the board wants to take a position on, then we're going to go all in on advocating for those types of positions. And this is a little bit of a new structure for us. And it's a change, but it's a very structured process that I want to make sure the voice of our members is constantly filtering up through the entire organization. So it's a work in progress, but it's exciting.
Seems like you got a handle on things.
I hope so.
Okay. All right. One thing I went through was Leadership Charlottesville. And I thought that was an exciting group and valuable.
Yes.
And one thing I have to do, I have to go back. There's one obstacle course that I wasn't able to finish. And I
You
have
didn't
to
finish
go
the
back.
ropes course, that thing?
The one that you walk across.
Yes, yeah.
I have to go back
I'll go with you.
when I get in shape,
I haven't
and I
done
have
it.
to do it. It's been, it's almost like something that you didn't finish.
Oh, we'll
but
do it
tell
together. I haven't done it either.
Okay. Well, tell us about the Leadership Charlottesville, our audience about Leadership Charlottesville.
Yes, Leadership Charlottesville is a fantastic program. Andrea Copeland-Whitsitt on the chamber staff has been running that program for a number of years now, and it's a really deep dive into the community. The way it works is every year there's about maybe a class of about 40 or so, and the people who are in that class range from people who are sort of emerging leaders. Sometimes it's people who are already in leadership roles and they're new to the community. So there's kind of a range of age and experience usually in those classes. And they go through a very intense program of learning about various aspects of this community, really from soup to nuts. And that's the first part of the program. And then the second part of the program is where they work in teams to work together with specific nonprofits to work on various issues or programs or things to help those nonprofits function better. And hopefully they're using the information that they learned during the first part of the program to really make a difference in the second part. This program's been around for 30 some years now, and the alumni network is, I'm not kidding, a total who's who in this community. You know, they're the doers. And so it's a real honor that we're able to be the organization providing that
Well,
programming.
it's important to develop leadership in the community and that networking of friendship that you may not have if it wasn't for the leadership that you have here.
And you know, another point about that I think is important is bringing people out of their business cocoon that they might be in too. I mean, it's not just enough to be a leader in your business, but this forces you to look at leadership in your community. You know, not only how your business relates to the community, but how you as a human being relate to your community. And I think what I have heard from a lot of people coming out of this program, and there's a lot of them around the country, is that the personal growth is such an important piece of this program too.
Okay. Now, I know you're active and you have to fund the organization. So what are some of your big events that helps fund this organization and that you become known as or don't become popular programs?
Sure. Well, actually, the
You
first
mentioned-
part of, I think I'll do a two-part answer to that because I do get the question frequently about how do we fund the organization. And there's really kind of three pathways for us as a nonprofit, of course. The first is chamber membership. And so membership dues help us pay for the programming that we have going on throughout the year. The second big lane that we have is events, which you mentioned. And so our annual dinner that we have is a big fundraiser for the chamber. But we have events throughout the year of all different sizes where we try to keep the cost of those events low, but we also use them as a way to generate revenue for the organization. Quadruplicity, I mentioned earlier, the Women's Roundtable is one of those events. That's a revenue generating event for us. The third big lane that we have to generate revenue is through a fairly new corporate sponsorship program called Partners in Trust. And so rather than soliciting sponsorship frequently, which can be a stressor for companies and for the chamber, frankly, we started this program where we said, listen, we want to focus on things like infrastructure and the talent pipeline and the future of our workforce and improving the brand and reputation of this business community. And we can't really do that if we're focused on selling table sponsorships every month, to a banquet. So if you support us, we will thank you and recognize you in every single thing that we do. We'll ask you for an investment once a year. and above and beyond membership dues. So that launched this year, and I'm just thrilled at the response we've received. So
Well,
it's working.
That's a great idea because they put you in the budget in the fall and you don't have to worry about it
Well,
again.
it's more predictable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
And for
sometimes
them,
events
it's-
happen where you may have a cancellation of a big speaker, and then all of a sudden you're stuck.
Okay.
So
Okay, well, we're almost at the half point. I want to say welcome to the Neighborhood Law Center, those who are just tuning in to us. I'm your host, Melvin Burruss, and our guest is Elizabeth Cromwell, president of the Seaville Regional Chamber of Commerce. And we're talking about Let's Talk Chamber. And it's been very interesting, and I hope those who have been watching is learning something. If not, give Elizabeth a call and ask her more questions because you'll see her name and information on the screen. So let's get back to what we were talking about. What are the goals for the community as the new president?
well, that's a great question. I work at the pleasure of the board, and so the job of the board, the volunteer board, is to sort of chart a course and kind of help push the vision of the organization, and it's my job to execute that vision. And I certainly assist in developing that course. But the things, and I sort of touched on them earlier, the things that seem to be universally important to our business community, and I spent about a year asking people about this, are three big buckets of issues. So the first, or I should say in Charlottesville, pillars. People told me I should call them pillars. But anyway, the first one is infrastructure. And when we talk about infrastructure, we're talking about everything from affordable housing to public education to roads and traffic to broadband and rural broadband. Those are all kind of major long-term infrastructure projects, even airport issues, that kind of big transportation kind of stuff. That's pretty universal. The mom and pop, business owner that can't get to work because he's stuck in the same traffic jam as somebody with, hundreds of employees, they're looking at that same issue. The second big issue that is really like a, 5-alarm fire for a lot of people is this whole issue about the future of the workforce. And in addition to a significant wave of retirement that is coming in this country, there are also issues related to, is our education system able to keep up with the changing needs of our business community, because it's changing pretty rapidly. That's a universal. And then the third big issue that I kind of touched on is really working on enhancing the brand of our business community. And I'm not talking about, tourism branding or anything like that. I'm talking about Charlottesville and Albemarle County as a good place to launch a business and to keep a business here. So those are three big lanes that a lot of people in the community are doing work in. We want to be a partner with a lot of those organizations. And one thing I frequently say is I don't really care who is accomplishing things. What we want to do is tell a common story of progress. And if that means that the chamber is setting up the bowling pins and handing you the bowling ball and you're hitting the strike, then we're going to cheer for the the amazing work within these three lanes that we're really focused on.
So what are you doing in the workforce area? Because one thing that lends us for is affordable housing, because to get workforce folks closer to their business, I think is very important also, and to get the skills that are needed.
Right. Well, I can just give you one example. Just a couple of weeks ago, I went to Capitol Hill with one of our construction chamber members, and we went and met with Senator Kane and some other elected officials there to talk about this one particular bill that Senator Kane is sponsoring. And are you familiar with Pell Grants? that
Yes.
Pell Grants provide opportunities for people to, have higher education.
Yeah, I had one.
Yeah,
I
well,
went to school
this,
many years
this,
ago.
this bill intends to open up Pell Grants for apprenticeships in, high demand industry, or opportunities to get certified in high demand industry. So not necessarily through a university or a community college. This could be an on-the-job training opportunity for somebody who is 16 years old, wants to go into cybersecurity, and wants to, get some financial support to get the training so that the day he graduates from high school, he can walk into a well-paying job, or she.
Now, that's a game changer.
Absolutely. These are the things that chambers, these are not controversial. There are a number of initiatives like this that I don't think in the past this chamber has really necessarily rallied around because there are other issues. But these are not controversial, and we can get things like that done. Okay. So that's just one example.
Yeah, one of the things is I'm proud the chamber has started the workforce initiative. That's now part of PVCC.
Yeah, the Network to Work.
Yeah, could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, that predates me at the chamber, but I'm thrilled to see it too. So that was launched at the chamber a number of years ago. The program is very hands-on and works with people who are seeking jobs that are not minimum wage jobs, that they're really kind of a path to a career. And it's a unique program where there's funding to provide support, for example, transportation to get to work. That's a big part of it.
Child care.
Childcare, yes, things like that. I think the challenge with Network to Work, and Ridge Schuyler and Frank Squilacci are involved with that program. They do a great job. I think the challenge is it is so hands-on that it's going to be very challenging to scale it up. Like, how do you make that a much larger program? Because I think there's the need, absolutely. But they are so personable and involved with each and every one of their clients that it's great for the people that are in the program.
The other side is making sure those graduates walk into a job. Because
Absolutely.
What you hate to do is train someone and there's no job at the end of it, or as a person who's going through the program.
Right.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And there's some big sea changes that are happening in some places. Where I came from in Frederick, Maryland, they've started, one of the main high school has started having school hours from like 6 a.m. to 8 or 9 p.m. at night, almost more like a college, And the reason is because we have employers that want to do on-the-job training and apprenticeships, but they have to do it during business hours.
Okay.
So,
Look like we're wrapping up, so but I have to get this one in. What is your vision for the chamber? What is your vision for the chamber?
Well, my vision for the chamber is for us to be a highly collaborative, very partnership-oriented organization that helps move business forward. I try to stay in that lane because we are a membership organization, so we answer to our members. But I want us to be highly connected, highly productive, and to make a difference in the business community.
Now, how are you going to grow new talent in the chamber? Because to do all this work,
yeah, we need help.
you need new people. I mean, they're doing a fabulous job.
They are, but we've got more ideas than we have arms. Yes. Well, that's one thing, and that's a whole other conversation. But we are finding more than one roundtable that really wants to go deeper into, their particular constituency. They actually want to put up funds to hire people for those specific roles. And that is something that's going to be happening right now. We're actually hiring we have one position available for somebody who has deep experience in the area of that roundtable. So one thing I do think is going to happen is we're going to get more specialized and very knowledgeable, deep knowledge in specific areas on our staff.
Okay. As we close out, what do you enjoy most about your job?
Oh, do I have to pick one thing?
Okay.
I love all the people I've met here, and this, I have to say, has been a really embracing and warm community across the board for me. So I'm grateful to be here.
Okay. If you were to leave something with our audience, with the community, what would it be about the chamber?
I would ask people to take a look at cvillechamber.com. It's a very dense website. There's a lot of information about all of our members. We're starting a job board. There's information about all of our roundtables and councils. We have a newsroom that has information there. So I think cvillechamber.com is probably the place that I would suggest most people start, and if they're able to take a look there and just see what draws their interest.
And you have a great chamber newsletter.
We do. Yes, you can sign up for the chamber newsletter on our site too. That is one feature that you do not have to be a member of the chamber to receive the e-newsletter, and that's great for our members because they can drop information and news and events and awards and recognition about their staff, and we push that out to thousands of people every week.
What would people be surprised to know about you?
About me? Probably that I worked in the professional sports industry for the first 10 years of my career, probably. So I'm still on the board of the San Francisco Marathon.
Oh.
I drove pace cars for marathons for years, which is
Wow.
a very specialized skill, and you have to make sure you don't run over any runners. So that most people would be surprised to hear that.
Yeah, I guess they would. But okay, I'm going to leave you with this. How do you expect Virginia economy to grow? Because, you know, one of the factors here is the the tariffs and how they affect some of the Virginia businesses here. So what is your expectation of the growth of Virginia?
Well, I think Virginia they were just ranked again the #1 state in the nation for business. So, you know, statewide, they certainly are going gangbusters. I think Charlottesville and Albemarle are an interesting community where they, you know, put quality of life and a lot of other issues right up there equally with economic development, which is good, and it also presents some challenges towards business growth at times. So it's a little bit more of an interesting, nuanced approach here.
Oh, we look like we're running out of time. I want to thank you so much. You've been wonderful. I just want to remind everybody, this is Melvin Burruss, your host. My guest was Elizabeth Cromwell, president of Seaville Chamber. You can get us on Channel 13, as you know, on Monday nights at 10 p.m., or go to the website, neighborhoodlawcenter.com. I want to thank you again. Peace and God bless. And have a happy Christmas and holidays. Thank you.